things is it allows Border Patrol to see what's on the other side for both mainly for their safety, so they can see what's coming at them without necessarily being fully in harm's way. As Max mentioned, it was very tall, and a typical argument that the left uses that, fencing or wall can still be, crossed or climbed over with ladders. And yes, but it is much harder, as Max mentioned, to climb than just running across land. Even if they were to get over, it takes a significant amount of time and requiring to bring ropes or ladders and time to push people over to get across that. Now that gives a leg up on for CBP, Customs and Border Protection, when the sensors are tripped, to make their way to that specific location and apprehend the migrants. So even if they are successful in crossing it, it's given Border Patrol possibly up to 15 minutes to locate or pinpoint the location of these migrants and make it to them to apprehend them before they make it deeper into America. So it's a multi-pronged approach, but I think the steel slap implementation that we saw would be extremely effective.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's important to note. Also, I want to give a couple more shout outs before we continue. So Good Godfather donated $10. He said, buy my album on goodgodfather.bandcamp.com. God bless Patriots who rock. Thank you very much for your donation. Also, thank you to Carl Peterson for your $10 donation, who said Waffle House pictures, ? MAGA stuff. I do love Waffle House.
Waffle House is great.
Also, Michael Sullivan, thank you for your $10 donation. You said, RSBN, the very best. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate you guys, like I said. Very critical point for this company, gearing up for 2020, so your donations mean a lot to us, so we really do appreciate it. Now, I do want to get into the nitty-gritty of the immigration. We've had, I don't want to say a heated discussion about the whole national emergency declaration, but...
It's never heated.
Never.
It's always constructive.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, it's important to note that the president has said that he is not afraid to declare a national emergency to make sure that he secures that $5.7 billion for funding for the wall. Now, this isn't to say that he won't face backlash from the courts and possibly even from the House trying to halt that executive order. Now, why don't you, Max, address, what your thoughts are on him declaring a national emergency? It may not be tonight, obviously. I think we'd be a little bit shocked about that, but
for sure.
I do think that, if they can't come to an agreement by February 15th, that might be the reality. So what do you think?
To preface this, I want to say that I have been a Trump supporter since he won the nomination. President Trump has done an incredible job since he's been inaugurated. I can read down a long list of things that I've been very impressed with and very proud of that he has enacted. With that being said, however, the number one thing for me when it comes down to the United States government, especially the federal government, is what's written in the Constitution. And nowhere in the Constitution does it say that national emergency money can be used in lieu of legislation. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on whatever issue you're talking about, the Constitution sets up for a lot of gridlock in the legislative branch. It's designed that way on purpose. Now, a lot of things that we believe we need, and we may actually need, do take some time to get there. And I think it'll eventually get there. But we need to be really patient with the process, because the process has been refined and has been in place for over 200 years. And it is tested and true. And even though I want the wall, and even though I believe in the wall, I also believe that the president did swear in to uphold the Constitution. And I believe that that is his number one duty, and he needs to continue that. And I believe that if he declares a national emergency, it can stain his reputation of being a constitutionally sound president, like Republicans like to tout about Reagan and others. And we don't want the Republican Party to echo the mistakes of the Democratic Party with FDR and with Eisenhower blowing up the Constitution. We want our Republican presidents to uphold it, because that's the one thing we can hold on to it.
Jordan, what do you think?
I think if we get to the point of a national emergency, because I truly hope we don't, I think it's going to be not just a reflection on the president, but a reflection as on the country as a whole, and specifically the elected officials, representatives in both the House and the Senate, because that would be a signal that, everything aside, at the end of the day, they can't come together and work together. They can't reach across party lines, give and take. life is a give and take. There's, not everyone can have everything at once. And even though, President Trump was anti-DACA, less than a month ago, he offered it. He offered a compromise. Democrats did not come to the table. They continued to stonewall, continued to tweet aimlessly, obstruct, and look where it got us. It got us nowhere. It got us a 35-day shutdown that resulted in almost $12 billion lost for the American economy. So if you take that number, building the wall would have been half the price that the shutdown cost us. So Democrats have 10 more days to get this wrapped up. Hopefully, the Speaker of the House and the Senate Minority Leader can work with their colleagues across the aisle. And, both sides are not going to get fully what they want, in my opinion. But they at least need to work together on some level and honestly just show good faith, because at the end of the day they were elected to do a job, and obstructing is not the job they were elected to do. They can call it racist, they can call it xenophobic, transphobic, rape, sex, whatever you want, but at the end of the day it's important that they represent America in the best way possible and represent all people, just not their special interests and their half of the country.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about our wonderful president. He has compromised. He has said, I don't believe in DACA, but you know what, I will reach across the aisle, because that's the definition of a compromise. You have to give and take, and you're not going to get everything that you want.
Right.
And I think someone needs to maybe inform Pelosi of the word compromise. I just feel like you had said, they're stonewalling, and they're not open to any sort of give and take. It's just my way or the highway. And, like you said, crazy that we're only 10 days out now, because I feel like it was just yesterday that they were, saying, okay, February 15th, and that seemed like, okay, well, we have some time, but I don't know how much more time this is going to take. It's pretty crazy at this point,
And the problem with the DACA compromise is that Democrats are asking for lifetime citizenship for these DACA recipients. And so when you compare a lifetime to 3 years, obviously it doesn't seem to them like that is a compromise. And that's the frustrating part. A lifetime amnesty or a lifetime citizenship it's completely unreasonable. It's completely illogical. And so the problem is that the Democrats aren't going to look at it as a compromise, even though they should, and logically it is. So I think that's really the big issue is that the Democrats are too stubborn to see what that compromise truly is.
And you know what? 3 years signals to me that Democrats don't think they can win in 2020, because 3 years, if the Democratic candidate wins like they want to have been saying, that means 3 years would put them into a Democratic presidency where, that president could possibly champion DACA reform and DACA extension, lifetime citizenship.
Okay.
So it shows kind of a weakness and insecurity on the Democrats' part that,
over there,
they don't think 3 years is enough.
and there should be a volume set.
In their heart of hearts,
If you can
probably know
crawl
that
across and get into the race, it's all the
President Trump will more than likely be reelected president for his second term. I do want to give a few shout outs to our donors. Kathleen Hagan gave $20. Thank you so much. She said, thank you for your wise and wonderful commentary and State of the Union coverage. Our future is bright. You are great future leaders, my friends. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Eric Millen gave us $40 and he said, you still owe me my flag. Eric, we will get that to you as soon as possible. Thank you for that. Duke Monteagle said, RSPN, you rock. Thank you very much. You rock as well. Proud Patriot 28 gave $15 and said, I agree 100% to upholding the Constitution. However, Dems will not deal in any way. If Dems won't come to an agreement, then the president has no choice. The future of our nation is more at stake. Carl Sobrato, thank you for your $20. Think about how many commie Dems can be tossed from Sikorsky. Finish the wall. Thank you for your donation so much. That was very generous of all of you.
Yeah, I want to touch on that one comment, which, let's see who it was, Proud Patriot 28. I do think it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't think that a national emergency, going about immigration reform through the avenue of a national emergency is ideal, but I also feel like at this point, if he doesn't do that, he does not build this wall, he won't see a second term. So although I totally get where you're coming from and I agree, but at the same time, I don't know what else he's going to do, because that's his biggest promise to his base. So it's really going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
It's amazing how polarizing this issue has been. I mean, it's like when people talk about Trump, when people refer to, the government right now, it's, are we going to get the wall? Are we not going to get a wall? No one's talking about any of the other issues right now. It is the biggest issue in the country, for better or worse.
Look, the problem is right now is we're looking at
Tell us how you really feel.
We're looking at a really similar problem to what we saw just a few years ago. Barack Obama used his executive order, also not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, he used his executive order to establish DACA, and Republicans rightfully got upset at that.
Right.
That was a legislative issue, not an executive branch issue. Now, if President Trump uses the national emergency to legislate from his office, what else are the Democrats going to use to legislate with national emergency money and what else are they going to deem a national emergency? If we remove Obamacare and the next Democratic president comes in and says the lack of healthcare is a national emergency, the next Democratic president comes in and says, people are poor. Universal income, the lack of it is a national emergency. Yeah. What are we going to do? Building a wall set that precedent, and you can't set you. It's unfortunate that that's what it's going to lead to, but it will lead to that. And President Trump, if President Trump wants to uphold his legacy and uphold the Constitution, he can't set that precedent.
So, do you think he will declare a national emergency come February 15th if they don't?
I believe.
Do you think that they could reach a deal? What do you think about that?
I believe that President Trump is more concerned with getting reelected in 2 years than the potential effects 20 years from now, the potential effects 30 years from now, because he's in office now,
right.
And he's for a reelection in 2 years, not in 30 years. So I believe that President Trump will likely call an emergency, not tonight, choice because he is up for re-election.
At this point,
there were some whispers the past few days about Democrats and Republicans striking a deal. I think, first of all, the Senate is significantly more productive than the House, in my opinion, especially when it comes to reaching across the aisle. We've seen much more bipartisanship out of that sector than we have from the House, sadly enough. But senators are just more mature, in my opinion. Like it or not, you can disagree with me. That is just how I feel. Even Senator Schumer is willing to come to the table and at least talk and have a discussion, unlike his counterpart, Speaker Pelosi, in the House. I really hope he doesn't declare a national emergency again. That sets a bad precedent. And to be honest, I'm just going to be very honest. We were down at the border. I wouldn't call it a national emergency. It's definitely an issue. It's definitely a concern and a worry, but it does not warrant an overuse of executive power, in my opinion. I know that'll probably be unpopular, but there's a difference between a crisis and an emergency.
And I think it's important to note, too, if the president does issue this national emergency, the House could pass a formal resolution of disapproval, and if that passes through the Senate, he could be using his first veto, which is kind of just a domino effect. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in terms of the sequence of events, if he does declare that and it does pass through the House, if it goes on to the upper chamber or not. So I think that's interesting to note as well, because obviously, the idea of declaring a national emergency is that it gives the government a temporary boost to deal with something that needs assistance right now until that emergency passes or the law is amended to deal with the crisis.
Yeah, it's not a done deal if he's like it. And
so this really could go one of like a $1 donation. You said, what about using the military and 10 U.S. Code section to build the wall instead of going the national emergency route? Love you all, MAGA. Thank you very much for your donation. The Pentagon actually released a report on Sunday saying that they are sending over 3,700 more troops to the border, bringing that total to over 6,000. So those troops will be deployed for 90-day periods. So he is in the process of exploring that route as well. So I don't think that's out of the question either. What do you guys think about sending troops to the border?
I mean, it's definitely necessary. We saw, I wouldn't say Border Patrol will spread thin, but they're definitely...
Self-proclaimed Border Patrol,
they're not as dense as they could be. Right. Like some of you might have followed along with us.
A little bit thinner, I feel like.
As some of you might have saw or heard our comments or seen on Twitter, we actually saw a migrant or two swimming across the Rio Grande, oddly enough, right in a very populated area. only maybe 100 yards from one of the CBP checkpoints.
Check out Jordan's Twitter if you want to see the
Yeah,
video.
look
He
at my
got
Twitter.
footage of these people crossing the river. We actually thought it was a joke or something. We're like, is that really happening right now?
It's funny you hear that and see it on TV, but it never really processes that that's actually happening. So.
And then didn't you ask someone, oh, so there were a bunch of locals in the area, and I think you would ask someone, oh, have you seen this before? And he goes, never. And I don't know.
I'm not gonna go 100% on that comment. It was definitely weird though to see that how easy it was to swim across. But again, I think technology could play a large role in that, as well as just more agents on the ground. Like the president and many legislators have said, while the barrier would be extremely helpful, it's not the best solution in all areas. For example, the area we saw, that person swim across, honestly, a wall, A, wouldn't look good, and B, would
it floods too. That was another component.
That was a big point. There's a large flood every 10 or 20 years, and so it would render the wall useless in those areas. So I think agents, cameras, sensors, drones,
it's a multi-pronged approach, like you said before.
Exactly. Maybe some more adaptable, I guess is a good word.
Because the approach has to be fluid. It has to change and adapt to whatever needs that Border Patrol, has to succumb to. So I kind of feel like, it has to be fluid and it has to change with the times as it changes. Now, as you guys probably know, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we actually went down to the border. We're in the process of making a documentary, and we got some really awesome footage. We don't know when that air date is going to be yet, so stay tuned. But we did go down to Laredo, Texas, and that was really, really eye-opening and super incredible. I actually went across the border with Liz. Shout out to you. I think you're watching. And that really was mind-blowing to me. I mean, it really was. You stepped on the other side and it felt like a war zone. We saw Mexican officials they were in masks and they had fully automatic machine guns, and it was mind-blowing. So that was really incredible. And then we went to McAllen, Texas, which is where the actual wall is. Most of the wall and the construction is actually in Southern California and across Arizona. But I do think it's important to note, a lot of the left, their argument is a little bit, it's not rooted in truth in that, the president wants to strategically place certain barriers and certain walls, certain places. It's not 2,000 miles of a border barrier that he wants to construct. And, actually Obama and Bush, prior administrations have already constructed hundreds of miles of border. So this is nothing new. And I think that's a narrative from the left.
You're out there. Just 10 seconds ago, I didn't miss much. Oh, everybody's complaining about it. I don't know really.
Damn it.
It's like, it's not clipping. Look at that. You're talking, look at the levels. Talk.
Mic check 1, 2.
Like, talk how you were talking.
So, I don't know, I just really don't think that it is a national emergency.
Talk.
I think it is a national emergency.
Look at that. He's barely registering.
Do you need... Oh, I'm an idiot. The mic was lower than it needed to be. Testing.
1, 2, 3, testing.
Testing.
Mic check.
Oh, it's still not showing up.
I don't get it. I'm turning the gain all the way down, but nothing's working. It's not working. You sure you got everything on the stupid? By the way, it doesn't appear even to be on. Why would you shut him off like that?
I don't know. Can I see...
Your phone, just saying, why the hell is it doing it?
My dad could hear
This keeps going off by itself for no reason.
Can I see one of your word transmitters?
I got music on right now on this thing because I'm not taking this like this because it's unbinding itself and everything's going bad. So, all right.
I don't think we're on Twitter or Facebook either.
Okay. Go back.
I'm hearing like this sound and it's just awful. We're not on anything yet because I haven't had a chance to start it yet because I've been dealing with audio.
Testing. 1, 2. It's so weird. Testing. Hello. Wow, I have to scream in it to get anything to show
What
up.
are we doing?
Hello.
Power button top left.
But
On the front.
is it out of batteries? What's happening?
I doubt it, but it's possible.
Yeah, Liz said the audio is annoying.
Yeah, it is out of batteries.
Okay.
It's almost out of batteries.
Okay. Alright, here. So...
like that. Have a lot of good demos.
Please be long enough.
Did you bring the rally mic down here?
Yes.
I'm tempted to say, why don't you just, I don't want to do it. I'm not taking it back live like this again. I don't know what the heck's going on with it. It's really getting on my nerves. Possibly the left one.
All right, so this is plugged in now. Bailey.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Mic check, mic
She's not
check.
registering on here hardly at all.
She's not. She's barely registering on here either.
She's not.
Is there there's no setting on the mic, is there?
Max, get the rally mic, please.
Okay.
We have to do this. Just set it up like you did. One mic, everybody pass it around.
Do you want to try one more thing? Because I'm changing the volume settings on this.
Go ahead.
Bailey, you're set. Go.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing. We are here live at State of the
that what it
Union,
needs to be with the mic?
and it is really exciting. We're having a great time. Testing.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Oh, sweet, that works.
But is it too loud now?
Okay, I can turn it down.
I just,
People can also turn it down on their computers too. It's better than buzzing.
not really. This isn't that kind of loud. This is distorted kind of loud. Where
Do you want me to just kind of find a medium? It was on 6. I turned it up to 15. It's the max. You want me to go like 11 or 12?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go to 11.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing.
Jordan's on 11. Stand by.
Testing.
You're still on 15. Hold on.
I need to be up. 11 didn't work.
11 did not work? Well, let's say just...
Testing.
My God, let's go.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3,
Testing, 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 testing. Yeah, it needs to be on 15 or whatever you had it at.
Jordan.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing.
That's 13. Should I go to 15?
Well,
Try 14. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
okay.
Testing, testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing.
It's good for Bailey. Go ahead, Bailey. Type again.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. We are live from headquarters reporting for the State of the Union address on Capitol Hill. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
They're both set on
Testing,
14.
mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing.
Okay.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Max, talk.
Mic check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
I guess 15.
Talk nice.
Mic check 1, 2. Mic check 1,
Do you
2.
see what's happening?
Mic check 1, 2. Now I'm out.
Get the
Testing.
rally mic.
Yes, sir.
Should we de-mic?
Apologize if I didn't go here.
Keep this off. Don't said turn on.
Testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3, testing. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo.
And we are back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you bearing with us. We had some technical difficulties, but getting those sorted out now, so thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. I do want to give a shout out to another donor. Tia Marie gave $10. Thank you so much, Tia. You know, we've talked a little bit about this, but I just want to hit on it one more time. You might be wondering, you know, why these donations are so crucial for our company right now. And, you know, it really just comes down to we're gearing up for the 2020 election cycle. You know, it's going to be way crazier than midterms. There's going to be a lot going on, and we want to make sure we're on par, having the tools and resources with the other networks. So thank you very much for donating if you have tonight, and we just know we really appreciate it. If you're interested in donating, you can do that through rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can do it through PayPal, Patreon, or the YouTube Super Chat at the bottom of your screen. And you can also mail a check, which I didn't mention earlier. I'm sure our lovely moderators will put that in the chat as well. So thank you guys very much. We actually were just discussing immigration, border security. You know, it's a loaded topic right now. It's at the forefront of partisan politics and, quite frankly, society right now. You know, as the Democrats call the wall immoral, and, you know, they continue to try to get in front of the president securing that border wall funding. Now, we actually just took a trip to, I don't know if you guys want to share what you found interesting about that and maybe how the trip impacted how you see, you know, the politics of border security now. Jordan?
Thank you. And I do want to make one quick comment. We have some breaking news coming in from Fox. A few statements or excerpts from Trump's State of the Union address were just released. He's, like we mentioned earlier, he's here to promote a message of unity. And together we can break decades of political stalemate. Continuing on, we can bridge old divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock the extraordinary promise of America's future. The decision is ours to make. And I think that really touches on what we were mentioning a little bit earlier, as although this has been a very divisive and fractured climate and political campaign recently, it is important to know, like we mentioned at the border, at the end of the day, we all are still Americans, and we all, you know, share one great love for our phenomenal country. So hopefully the president can really bring that message to us tonight. I will touch on her question briefly. The border was interesting. It did open my eyes a lot. And as I mentioned right before, we had those audio difficulties. Again, we apologize for that. Is that it's definitely a crisis. There's definitely a humanitarian aspect to it. But personally, I would not classify it as a national emergency. I think national emergencies are reserved for hurricanes, disease outbreaks like
things that I think we should talk about too, regarding what the president might discuss. One of them being in an umbrella idea of foreign policy. I think he might touch on North Korea. The president has clarified.
They could hear everything you were saying when they're talking.
Yeah, now they're saying there's no sound.
Yeah, but back when you saw the clipped on mics, like when you went to go fix it, it drowned out our audio because we're talking. Or whatever.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. They say they can't hear
They
us.
say they can't hear.
Now I hear. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We apologize for these audio delays. We're trying to get them.
Testing our patience.
It's testing our patience. So again, we apologize if the audio keeps cutting out. Obviously, we want to bring the best possible experience to you all at home. But, you know, sometimes there are hiccups, and tonight you were seeing that firsthand, so we apologize. But if you didn't hear, we were on the topic of North Korea and the possible upcoming summit.
It wouldn't be an RSBN stream if there weren't mistakes. Everybody knows that by now, right? I mean, come on.
Joe says it wouldn't be an RSBN stream if there weren't mistakes. So, but this shows that we are real and authentic, and there are no fake news here. We are just all dodging the bullets as it comes. So, welcome back. Hopefully, you guys can hear us.
Now, Liz is a white noise constant.
Well,
You know, that's what the same thing that has always been the issue.
But I'll hand it back to Liz. I'm so sorry.
we're real here, no fake news. All right, thank you guys again for bearing with us. I want to give a quick shout out to our CEO, Joe. He's working overtime to making sure everything gets sorted out, so be sure to give a shout out to him. But yeah, so we were talking about North Korea, talking about possible summit. I know, Max, you were also trying to figure out the audio. But we were talking about North Korea, possible summit. What are your thoughts on that? Any just generic whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see the two countries kind of come together and figure some things out and really work on actually acting out some of the things that they talked about. There are a lot of reports coming out of the intelligence communities that North Korea is actually not North Korea. I don't know why he did that. I'm sorry, y'all. Wow, this has been a night. All right.
That's fun.
We have.
It's been
If you can't
entertaining,
tell.
yeah.
So, where am I?
North Korea.
North Korea. North Korea there are reports out of the intelligence communities that North Korea is actually not living out its word. They're not living up to their side of the deal when it comes down to denuclearizing. This is throwing me off, guys. So I think that if we can get some real proof that there's going to be some denuclearization, and I don't know if we are going to, then I would love to see that come out of that summit. I love that the president is working with some of these foreign countries, actually standing up to them. However, I would love to see some actual, I want to see some actual results come out of North Korea, or then I'm not calling for any specific type of action, but maybe words aren't going to be enough, and we may need to call on the rest of the world to take some more serious action.
I do want to move on to another topic, if that's okay with y'all. Yeah. The State of the Union guest list actually is quite interesting this year, and it has a diversified portfolio. I'm going to read you some of the names of some of the guests that are going to be there, both from the Democratic side and from the White House. Number 1, Deborah Bissell, Heather Armstrong, and Madison Armstrong. Gerald and Sharon David of Reno, Nevada were tragically murdered in their home in Nevada by an illegal immigrant just this past month. The terrible loss has devastated their family and their community, and so they will be attending. This is per the White House. Another notable guest is Joshua Trump. You might have heard, actually, the little boy. You might have seen on the media. Joshua Trump is a 6th grader from Wilmington, Delaware. He appreciates science, art, and history. He also loves animals and hopes to pursue a career related to that in the future. His hero and best friend is his uncle Cody, who serves in the United States Air Force. Unfortunately, Joshua has been bullied in school due to his last name, and that kind of highlights some of the intolerance in America right now, especially coming from the left. From his last name, as I mentioned, and he is thankful to the First Lady and Trump for their support. Again, this is per the White House. And a couple more, but finally, notably, Alice Johnson. She was championed actually by Kim Kardashian earlier this year for prison reform. She was serving a life sentence for a nonviolent first-time drug-related crime. She was granted clemency by the president in June of last year. So she is now championing prison reform, which we saw passed earlier, or actually late last year. So she is one of Trump's guests as well. Moving on to Democrats, a lot of the articles I'm seeing are titled "Democrats Troll Trump with Their State of the Union Guests," which is quite funny. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and a few other representatives actually have invited transgender veterans and service members to Trump's address. This is obviously in response to the transgender military ban that was upheld, or not upheld, but allowed to continue by the court. And then they're also planning to attend some undocumented. It's 2 birds with 1 stone, oddly, but if you guys have any thoughts or comments on that, I'd love to hear your reflections.
I love when people try to troll President Trump, the troll in chief, if you will, because it always seems like they walk away from every troll attempt like, yep, I got him this time, I did it. And it's always really funny because they either don't get acknowledged or it falls flat really hard. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great examples of that happening, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to happen again tonight. That no troll that Democrats can attempt is going to work. So I'm excited to see those fail, because those are really entertaining to see fail. And President Trump is going to shake him off, and he'll troll them back, and that'll work. And so, nothing sticks to President Trump, nothing gets to him. He's got thick skin. Democrats have really thin skin. So, of course, it's going to get to them. Obviously, it's not going to work. We saw a lot of that in the primaries. Everyone tried to attack him, and nothing got to him. And so, I think that the president is going to really outdo these invitations. President Trump has a lot of invitations himself, along with, I believe, Melania. And I think it's a really interesting move by Nancy Pelosi to invite, I don't even remember her name, I'm not going to humanize her, the president of Planned Parenthood. She is Nancy Pelosi's guest this evening. So, there are a lot of things that the Democrats are going to try to do. I know a lot of Democratic women, congresswomen, walked up to the steps today wearing all white. which was pretty amusing. Didn't realize it was Memorial Day. So there's a lot of this attempts at trolling, and none of it's going to work. Not even the invites. The cameras never go to the invitations of the congressmen or the senators. The cameras always go to the invitations of the president who's giving the speech. So, LOL.
I just want to say this is like a really irrelevant tidbit. I was just introduced when I came onto RSBN with the idea of trolling. I didn't even realize there were trolls out there trolling. I mean, do people have nothing better to do? But anyway, I want to give a couple shout outs. One of them, yeah. So thank you to our newest member. Welcome to Rob Chilton. Thank you so much for joining. Also, a $10 donation from Duke Moneagle. Thank you so much. You said thanks. Yes, that's your second donation. Thank you very much. You said thanks for your hard work. So just know, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We've had quite an adventure tonight, and I'm sure especially with the president's speech, it will just get that much better. So thank you guys again. If you, yeah?
We were just mentioning Jim Acosta, and we were talking earlier about the tone of President Trump's speech. Supposedly. Jim Acosta just tweeted, Trump is expected to deliver a, quote, more aggressive speech tonight than what the White House and others have been describing over the last few days, we are told. Don't know who we is, but again, Jim Acosta, A+ reporting there. Speechwriters made tweaks for his suggestion. He is annoyed with Schumer and Pelosi and making that clear to aides. I think I represent a lot of Americans when I say we are irritated with Schumer and Pelosi. That's not a new idea. That's not something, you know.
Bipartisan thing.
It is, and so I don't understand the relevance of that tweet. Not too many statements out of Jim Acosta's mouth are all that intelligent, that being one of them. So, yeah, I think that's not anything new. But we will see. Time will tell. I hope he makes a message of aggressive unity. I hope he really pushes that. So I guess it could be aggression, but hopefully it's to whip y'all into shape and working together instead of dividing among each other. So we just passed the 20 minutes until the president arrives. So next topic.
All right, something else I want to touch on before the president speaks is, you know, like I had mentioned before, there's, I think, a lot of foreign policy topics that will at least be mentioned throughout his address, one of them being China. So we're waiting on President Trump to announce a trade deal with China amid heightened bilateral tension. This comes as both Beijing and Washington have slapped retaliatory tariffs on each other's products for months now. So the president did meet with the Chinese vice premier last week after the Chinese trade delegation arrived in our nation's capital to hold the latest round of trade talks. Now, the president is slated to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this month prior to the March 2nd deadline. Now, the president has made it clear if he does not come to an agreement with the Chinese trade delegation prior to that deadline, he will hike tariffs 15% on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. How do you guys think? Yeah, exactly. How do you guys think this might affect the global economy if this continues? And what do you think is the best way for him to go about reaching a trade deal with China? Jordan?
Trade's a very delicate issue, a very complicated one that many Americans, including myself, don't understand the full depth of it. I think a lot of people tend to think it's more just, you know, on the surface, oh, we're going to hit you with the tariff, we're going to hit you with a tariff. Awesome. Oh, one thing. Ben Leggins for donating $100. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your continued support.
Proud Patriot again, $20.
Oh wow, Proud Patriot, awesome.
Thank you.
He said, "Trust me when I say the transgender program in the military has more details libs love to exclude from the public. I don't doubt it. Like it or not, they're more trouble and issues the libs will never ever admit." New member, welcome to Summer Sunrise. Thank you so much for joining us.
Continue. I just
Yeah,
wanted to, like,
no, yeah,
that.
that's huge. Thank you so much. What was I talking about? Oh, trade. It is much more complex than a lot of people know or tend to think. There are many things we're not privy to. But trade is a delicate issue, especially between the two largest economies in the world, the U.S. and China. China has been trying to catch up with us and surpass us with their economy and have not been super successful with that. So an easy way to bring in revenue is to continue charging tariffs. Sadly, the U.S., with not the strongest leadership previously, has just kind of taken it, you know, accepted it and moved on. without us really fighting back. So while it seems, and it is divisive, in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, Jordan, I 100% agree with you on when it comes down to free trade. I think that it is. Sorry, guys. All right. I'm sorry about that, guys. The mic battery pack at the bottom was falling out for a second. But, Jordan, I believe you're exactly right when it comes down to free trade. I think that, that's been a tenet of the Republican Party for a long time, having a hands-off approach to the economy. Laissez-faire is a great word. And I think that the Republicans need to try to uphold that principle, or at least I'll settle for common ground at equal tariffs. Tariffs are just another fancy word for a tax on the imports and the exports. And I think that that's what I want American businesses, and I want the American industries to thrive. But I also believe the economy does its best. I believe the economy is at its best when it is really lowly regulated and really lightly taxed. And I think that's the way to approach it. And so the president will likely take a couple shots at China tonight. And I hope that they're constructive, and I hope that they're beneficial. He's proven me that when he does take shots, they are. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now. But when he does it tonight, let's hope that it does bring about some good policy.
Elaborating on that, the economy is doing phenomenal. The Dow had the best. I'm sure you were thrilled right now. We surpassed 25,000 points in the Dow in the past week or so. So that's phenomenal. Hopefully this trade dispute can get wrapped up soon, and the economy can keep chugging along as it loves to do here in our wonderful capitalist society of America. Going off what you said about targeted shots, it is going to be interesting to see Trump's tone tonight. We did, and if he stays on script, we commented on this a little bit earlier. But when the president stays on script and stays on message, he can be a very, very effective communicator. We saw this when he addressed the nation a couple weeks ago. His message was heard loud and clear. It was a resounding message around the country that we need unity, we need border security, and those things aren't exclusive of each other. They can be mutually had. So personally, I hope the president stays on message, stays on script, because I think his speech will be given a lot more credibility and a lot more attention for the positive parts as opposed to the negative parts if he derails and goes off script. Following that, do you want to comment on the so-called Democratic response given by the failed gubernatorial candidate in Georgia, Brian Kemp? If you're out there, we love you, buddy. Proud supporter. Do you want to comment on that a little? Okay.
I don't have it here.
No, go for it.
I don't have anything to say about Stacey Abrams. I think she does a good enough. She does a good enough job discrediting herself. Just wanted to tell you guys something you may not have heard. It came out just about 3 minutes ago. Tonight's designated survivor is Energy Secretary Rick Perry. So thought you guys would be either amused or glad about that. Rick Perry, as you guys may remember, ran for president in 2012 and 2016, although the 2016 was very short-lived. So Rick Perry is tonight's designated survivor. So there's another reason to hope for a very safe State of the Union tonight.
Yeah, thankfully now that the government shut down, all the security concerns that Nancy Pelosi had are gone. So, Madam Speaker, I wish you a pleasant speech. I was going to say, that's one of the reasons I love the State of the Union, is it forces everyone to sit in the room and to listen to the president. For an hour and a half he does, but to me it makes people, anti-Semites like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, listen to a great ally of Israel, and listen to that. Sadly, they're not very effective or influential in the House, as they are both junior representatives, but nonetheless they have to sit there and listen. What else were we talking about?
Do you want me to respond to that?
Sure, Max has some opinionated thoughts on the State of the Union, so I will let him comment. But as you can see on your screen on the right, we are showing a live picture of the chamber where President Trump is expected to arrive in about 10 minutes. As you can see, Nancy Pelosi, at her spry young 70-something yourself, is wearing all white, standing next to Vice President Pence. So it'll be fun to watch her facial expressions over the evening.
Of course, I want all Democratic lawmakers to hear President Trump speak directly. I think that's important. I think so frequently, and it's even, I saw a video of it kind of making jokes on YouTube just about how everyone constantly misrepresents President Trump on purpose. The travel ban from 7 majority Muslim countries was called a Muslim ban. People were like, why are you banning an entire religion? Wasn't. He was banning travel from select countries. Right. So I think that right when we talk about misrepresentation, that is just so prevalent in politics in Washington, D.C., and I think that it's important for Democratic lawmakers to actually hear President Trump speak to them directly. However, I don't like the State of the Union for a couple different reasons, mostly because I just think it's very I retweeted a tweet earlier today, and I love the way it's worded, quasi-monarchical. So I really just don't feel that it's very democratic. It comes off very egotistical. You got over 535 people in that chamber standing up and clapping at the president, who is elected to serve the American people. And it seems like everyone's patting themselves on the back for generally poor performances when you look at individually speaking. I'm not talking about President Trump. I think President Trump deserves a lot more respect than he's given, but also I don't like this celebratory nature of the State of the Union for any president. I believe the State of the Union should be carried out like the way George Washington did it when he wrote a handwritten letter to Congress. I believe that that's the way it should be delivered. And then Woodrow Wilson came in and he let his ego take over, and then it started to be this monarchical celebration of a man who's supposed to be serving the people and not necessarily be celebrated by it.
I just want to point out the irony to me is that a majority of President Trump's 2020 Democratic opponents have to sit there and listen to him speak as president for the next hour and a half. So to me, that's just entertaining. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, have a great night.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that too. So I feel like I see what you're saying, but I also feel like obviously when you refer to a democracy, you're talking about government procedures. People are involved in decisions. So I think that to compare democracy with egotistical is just like apples and oranges. I see what you're saying, but I also kind of feel like he's the president. So I mean, it is what it is. These people it's not like a night where they're making decisions and they can't be involved. It's not hurting anyone. So I kind of think it is monarchical in a way, but I also kind of think it should be celebrated in a way. But anyway, so I do want to switch gears just for a second, give a shout out to Margaret Kahn. For your $20 donation, you said, free Schaefer Cox, American political prisoner. Thank you very much. Also, welcome to our new member, Rev Richmond 1. It looks like the president is arriving, as you can see now. We have a live look. He should be filing in shortly. We're about 6 minutes out from the State of the Union address, and you are looking at a live look at Capitol Hill right now. Also, we have a $20 donation from Pirate Bill. Thank you so much for your donation. If you guys are wondering how you can donate, you can do that via rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can do that through the YouTube Super Chat at the bottom of your screen, or PayPal or Patreon. So thank you guys again for being so involved. Like I said, we are around 6 to 7 minutes out, so we are looking forward to hearing him speak. So I don't know, Jordan, what are you most looking forward to the president talking about tonight?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, this week has been a politically packed week, very busy, lots of controversial stories, lots of, kind of not earth-shattering, but some very sad stories, especially coming out of Virginia and that area. But I really do hope the president stays on script. I really do hope he does bring a message of unity and, kind of one nation under God, indivisible
indivisible, because at the end of the day, that's what we are. That's where we come from. So I think he's at his best and can do his best and be most effective when he does speak that loud and clear. I hope he touches on Israel a little bit, possibly. Abortion. Okay, abortion. I hope, pray to God, he touches on abortion. We saw some absolutely disturbing news out of Virginia this week. Not even going to bring up the governor. As you can see on your screen now, the justices, Supreme Court justices are arriving. I'm not sure if Ruth Bader Ginsburg is there. What?
I did not see her.
Okay, she may not be there. If she is, she may fall asleep, but who knows. But we can see Brett Kavanaugh there, which is fantastic. So yeah, what was I saying before that? Speech. Abortion, sorry. I got sidetracked. All the justices did arrive, and here come more of Trump's cabinet members and high-ranking officials in the government. So we are about 5 minutes away from the president arriving, as you can see on your screen. Back to the abortion. There was a bill proposed by some members of the Virginia House allowing late-term abortions up until labor, basically. Quite abhorrent and quite vile. I know there's a ton of outrage over that, but the bill basically said you can have an abortion at any time during the pregnancy, not just your first trimester, second trimester, or even your third trimester. But when you are in labor, when a woman is dilating and about to give birth, and the governor followed that up, separate from his racism, but with the fact that if the abortion was failed, the infant would, quote, be made comfortable, and the doctor or the physician and the mother would have a conversation. Like, what, be made comfortable for how long? An hour, 2 hours, until the mother decides we're just going to kill the baby? To me, if Democrats or the left is saying that a baby is only a life when out of the womb, I assume you're making that baby comfortable outside of the womb and then proceed with the abortion. To me, that's murder. Is that not murder to you guys?
Yeah, it's absolutely murder, and I also want to make note that it's actually never medically necessary to have an abortion in the third trimester. That's a total myth.
Yeah.
Usually they will induce you into labor at that point, and I don't want to say more than likely, but a lot of the cases the baby can survive on its own at that point, and we have so much technology and resources now that makes that more likely. So that's, yeah, and adoption, that's always, a great option. But yeah, a lot on the pro-choice, pro-life front this week, but pretty disturbing news. But as you can see, we're looking at a live look of the First Lady. She just arrived to the lower chamber for the State of the Union address. We are just a couple minutes out at this point, so we should see the president any moment now. I also want to give a quick shout out. We have a couple donations, but my computer froze, so give me just 1 second. Yeah, so we're looking, like I said, at Melania. Let's see. We have a $10 donation from Happy Camper, who said, God bless President Donald Trump. May success of USA ever be one and the same. Suppress the naysayers. Let freedom ring. Thank you so much. Also, Pirate Bill, for your $20 donation. We really appreciate that as well. Thank you very much. Margaret Kahn, we shouted you out, but thank you again for your donation. We really appreciate it. We are just moments away now from hearing the president speak, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, this is weeks in the making at this point with the dialogue between the House Speaker and the President. So, a lot on the table here, a lot to talk about, a lot of issues.
Madam Speaker, the President's
What are you most excited about to hear the President speak about next?
I'm excited to see the way he handles the lawmakers in the chamber. I'm excited to see how he uses this platform, which he already has Twitter, he already has the Oval Office, but there's Secretary Pompeo walking in right now. But I'm excited to see where how he uses this platform, how he urges lawmakers to speak. Not necessarily his demeanor. I'm expecting a very upfront and blunt President Trump tonight. He needs to really start to kind of push a little bit harder on this before the clock runs out. And I think the president is going to use that tonight. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the urges to get some legislation done. I'm looking forward to the confidence that he'll exude, and honestly, of course, I'm looking forward to the insults and the jabs that he's going to be taking.
And as we mentioned, you can see more of the cabinet members arriving. There's Ben Carson's arriving, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation, Steve Mnuchin, Secretary of the Treasury, and a few other members filing in as we speak. So the president is just moments away from taking the stage. We do want to give one more shout out, two more shout outs. Sorry, Proud Patriot. Wow, you are really on top of things tonight. My outburst for the night. Dems have lost their souls. Children are not even safe from their evil. The president must address that no matter the backlash from the pro-choice hypocrites. This is infanticide, plain and simple. And Marsha K, $50. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Much love from Patriot Soapbox. Much love to you as well. So as the countdown clock winds down, just a couple seconds left, we do expect the president to arrive in the chamber any second now. As you can say, Secretary Nielsen, Homeland Security, DHS, and the rest of Trump's cabinet filing in. So this should make for a very interesting evening. We will be anticipating the president's arrival shortly and bringing it all to you live. It'll be interesting to see how he addresses the speaker as well. Any other comments, guys, before we turn it over to the president? Nothing? Okay, well, again, thank you guys so much for joining us for this broadcast. We apologize for some of the audio difficulties we have had over the past hour, but again, it's authentic, it's real. There's nothing fake about what we're doing here. So we appreciate all your guys' love and support. There's almost 8,000 live viewers now on YouTube. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the people on Facebook and Twitter as well. We love you guys. So as we can look now, the camera is walking down the main aisle, so it looks like the President of the United States will be arriving any second, which is phenomenal. Again, as we mentioned, it'll be a very interesting evening. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our commentary, our opinions, and facts on some of the issues and what we hope to see the President talk about. Again, we will be back after the State of the Union as well, providing our follow-up commentary, our immediate reactions to what the President said. So be sure to hang around and stay tuned for our commentary immediately following when the President wraps up. So thank you all for your donations. You guys have been extremely generous. One more shout out, Cactus Rose. Thank you, RSBN, love you, and Patriot Soapbox. God bless. Thank you so much for your donations, everyone. We have one more. Old Nurse gave, and she said thank you. Well, thank you for your donation. We really appreciate it. You guys are what make this possible and allow us to continue to keep growing, expanding, and bringing you better coverage, more coverage, and higher quality content. So this is all thanks to you guys. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, leave your thoughts down below in the chat. We'd love to see your reactions too, just as we share our thoughts and reactions. We're one big family here. Max, do you want to comment?
I do. I've been seeing a couple comments in the chat that I want to clarify something we talked about a little bit earlier. Democratic congresswomen are wearing all white tonight to protest. So that is why, yeah, it's very unclear. Their message isn't extremely direct. But that is why you'll see Nancy Pelosi dressed in all white, and many congresswomen are in all white as well. You can see in that shot right there, there is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the incredible DNC chairwoman. So that's why you see them all in white. If you ask them why, I don't know if they'll be able to give you a great answer. And
Madam Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, the First Lady of the United States, and my fellow Americans. We meet tonight at a moment of unlimited potential. As we begin a new Congress, I stand here ready to work with you to achieve historic breakthroughs for all Americans. Millions of our fellow citizens are watching us now gathered in this great chamber, hoping that we will govern not as two parties, but as one nation. The agenda I will lay out this evening is not a Republican agenda or a Democrat agenda. It's the agenda of the American people. Many of us have campaigned on the same core promises to defend American jobs and demand fair trade for American workers, to rebuild and revitalize our nation's infrastructure, to reduce the price of health care and prescription drugs, to create an immigration system that is safe, lawful, modern, and secure, and to pursue a foreign policy that puts America's interest first. There is a new opportunity in American politics if only we have the courage together to seize it. Victory is not winning for our party. Victory is winning for our country. This year, America will recognize two important anniversaries that show us the majesty of America's mission and the power of American pride. In June, we mark 75 years since the start of what General Dwight D. Eisenhower called the Great Crusade, the Allied liberation of Europe in World War II. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, 15,000 young American men jumped from the sky and 60,000 more stormed in from the sea to save our civilization from tyranny. Here with us tonight are three of those incredible heroes. Private First Class Joseph Riley, Staff Sergeant Irving Locker, and Sergeant Herman Zaitchik. Please. Gentlemen, we salute you. In 2019, we also celebrate 50 years since brave young pilots flew 250,000 miles through space to plant the American flag on the face of the moon. Half a century later, we are joined by one of the Apollo 11 astronauts who planted that flag, Buzz Aldrin. Thank you, Buzz. This year, American astronauts will go back to space on American rockets. In the 20th century, America saved freedom, transformed science, redefined the middle class, and when you get down to it, there's nothing anywhere in the world that can compete with America. Now we must step boldly and bravely into the next chapter of this great American adventure. And we must create a new standard of living for the 21st century. An amazing quality of life for all of our citizens is within reach. We can make our communities safer, our families stronger, our culture richer, our faith deeper, and our middle class bigger and more prosperous than ever before. But we must reject the politics of revenge, resistance, and retribution, and embrace the boundless potential of cooperation, compromise, and the common good. Together, we can break decades of political stalemate. We can bridge old divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock the extraordinary promise of America's future. The decision is ours to make. We must choose between greatness or gridlock, results or resistance, vision or vengeance, incredible progress or pointless destruction. Tonight, I ask you to choose greatness. Over the last 2 years, my administration has moved with urgency and historic speed to confront problems neglected by leaders of both parties over many decades. In just over 2 years since the election, we have launched an unprecedented economic boom, a boom that has rarely been seen before. There's been nothing like it. We have created 5.3 million new jobs, and importantly added 600,000 new manufacturing jobs something which almost everyone said was impossible to do. But the fact is, we are just getting started. Wages are rising at the fastest pace in decades and growing for blue-collar workers who I promised to fight for. They're growing faster than anyone else thought possible. Nearly 5 million Americans have been lifted off food stamps. The U.S. economy is growing almost twice as fast today as when I took office. And we are considered far and away the hottest economy anywhere in the world, not even close. Unemployment has reached the lowest rate in over half a century. African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment have all reached their lowest levels ever recorded. Unemployment for Americans with disabilities has also reached an all-time low. More people are working now than at any time in the history of our country. 157 million people at work. We passed a massive tax cut for working families and doubled the child tax credit. We virtually ended the estate tax, or death tax, as it is often called, on small businesses, for ranches, and also for family farms. We eliminated the very unpopular Obamacare individual mandate penalty. And to give critically ill patients access to life-saving cures, we passed, very importantly, right to try. My administration has cut more regulations in a short period of time than any other administration during its entire tenure. Companies are coming back to our country in large numbers, thanks to our historic reductions in taxes and regulations. And we have unleashed a revolution in American energy. The United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. And now, for the first time in 65 years, we are a net exporter of energy. After 24 months of rapid progress, our economy is the envy of the world. Our military is the most powerful on earth by far. And America America is again winning each and every day. Members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. That sounds so good. Our country is vibrant and our economy is thriving like never before. On Friday, it was announced that we added another 304,000 jobs last month alone, almost double the number expected. An economic miracle is taking place in the United States, and the only thing that can stop it are foolish wars, politics, or ridiculous partisan investigations. If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way. We must be united at home to defeat our adversaries abroad. This new era of cooperation can start with finally confirming the more than 300 highly qualified nominees who are still stuck in the Senate, in some cases years and years waiting. Not right. The Senate has failed to act on these nominations, which is unfair to the nominees and very unfair to our country. Now is the time for bipartisan action. Believe it or not, we have already proven that that's possible. In the last Congress, both parties came together to pass unprecedented legislation to confront the opioid crisis, a sweeping new farm bill, historic VA reforms, and after 4 decades of rejection, we passed VA accountability so that we can finally terminate those who mistreat our wonderful veterans. And just weeks ago, both parties united for groundbreaking criminal justice reform. They said it couldn't be done. Last year, I heard through friends the story of Alice Johnson. I was deeply moved. In 1997, Alice was sentenced to life in prison as a first-time nonviolent drug offender. Over the next 22 years, she became a prison. Alice's story underscores the disparities and unfairness that can exist in criminal sentencing and the need to remedy this total injustice. She served almost that 22 years and had expected to be in prison for the remainder of her life. In June, I commuted Alice's sentence. When I saw Alice's beautiful family greet her at the prison gates, hugging and kissing and crying and laughing, I knew I did something right. Alice is with us tonight, and she is a terrific woman. Terrific. Alice, please. Alice, thank you for reminding us that we always have the power to shape our own destiny. Thank you very much, Alice. Thank you very much. Inspired by stories like Alice's, my administration worked closely with members of both parties to sign the First Step Act into law. Big deal. Big deal. This legislation reformed sentencing laws that have wrongly and disproportionately harmed the African American community. The First Step Act gives nonviolent offenders the chance to re-enter society as productive, law-abiding citizens. Now, states across the country are following our lead. America is a nation that believes in redemption. We are also joined tonight by Matthew Charles from Tennessee. In 1996, at the age of 30, Matthew was sentenced to 35 years for selling drugs and related offenses. Over the next 2 decades, he completed more than 30 Bible studies, became a law clerk, and mentored many of his fellow inmates. Now Matthew is the very first person to be released from prison under the First Step Act. Matthew, please. Thank you, Matthew. Welcome home. Now, Republicans and Democrats must join forces again to confront an urgent national crisis. Congress has 10 days left to pass a bill that will fund our government, protect our homeland, and secure our very dangerous southern border. Now is the time for Congress to show the world that America is committed to ending illegal immigration and putting the ruthless coyotes, cartels, drug dealers, and human traffickers out of business. As we speak, large, organized caravans are on the march to the United States. We have just heard that Mexican cities, in order to remove the illegal immigrants from their communities, are getting trucks and buses to bring them up to our country in areas where there is little border protection. I have ordered another 3,750 troops to our southern border to prepare for this tremendous onslaught. This is a moral issue. The lawless state of our southern border is a threat to the safety, security, and financial well-being of all America. We have a moral duty to create an immigration system that protects the lives and jobs of our citizens. This includes our obligation to the millions of immigrants living here today who followed the rules and respected our laws. Legal immigrants enrich our nation and strengthen our society in countless ways. I want people to come into our country in the largest numbers ever, but they have to come in legally. Tonight, I am asking you to defend our very dangerous southern border out of love and devotion to our fellow citizens and to our country. No issue better illustrates the divide between America's working class and America's political class than illegal immigration. Wealthy politicians and donors push for open borders while living their lives behind walls and gates and guards. Meanwhile, working-class Americans are left to pay the price for mass illegal immigration. Reduced jobs, lower wages, overburdened schools, hospitals that are so crowded you can't get in, increased crime, and a depleted social safety net. Tolerance for illegal immigration is not compassionate. It is actually very cruel. One in 3 women is sexually assaulted on the long journey north. Smugglers use migrant children as human pawns to exploit our laws and gain access to our country. Human traffickers and sex traffickers take advantage of the wide open areas between our ports of entry to smuggle thousands of young girls and women into the United States and to sell them into prostitution and modern-day slavery. Tens of thousands of innocent Americans are killed by lethal drugs that cross our border and flood into our cities, including meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. The savage gang MS-13 now operates in at least 20 different American states, and they almost all come through our southern border. Just yesterday, an MS-13 gang member was taken into custody for a fatal shooting on a subway platform in New York City. We are removing these gang members by the thousands, but until we secure our border, they're going to keep streaming right back in. Year after year, countless Americans are murdered by criminal, illegal aliens. I've gotten to know many wonderful angel moms and dads and families. No one should ever have to suffer the horrible heartache that they have had to endure. Here tonight is Deborah Bissell. Just 3 weeks ago, Deborah's parents, Gerald and Sharon, were burglarized and shot to death in their Reno, Nevada home by an illegal alien. They were in their 80s and are survived by 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 20 great-grandchildren. Also here tonight are Gerald and Sharon's granddaughter, Heather, and great-granddaughter, Madison. To Deborah, Heather, Madison, please stand. Few can understand your pain. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you very much. I will never forget, and I will fight for the memory of Gerald and Sharon, that it should never happen again. Not one more American life should be lost because our nation failed to control its very dangerous border. In the last 2 years, our brave ICE officers made 266,000 arrests of criminal aliens, including those charged or convicted of nearly 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 killings or murders. We are joined tonight by one of those law enforcement heroes, ICE Special Agent Elvin Hernandez. When Elvin Thank you. When Elvin was a boy, he and his family legally immigrated to the United States from the Dominican Republic. At the age of 8, Elvin told his dad he wanted to become a special agent. Today, he leads investigations into the scourge of international sex trafficking. Elvin says that if I can make sure these young girls get their justice, I've really done my job. Thanks to his work and that of his incredible colleagues, more than 300 women and girls have been rescued from the horror of this terrible situation. And more than 1,500 sadistic traffickers have been put behind bars. Thank you, Alvin. We will always support the brave men and women of law enforcement. And I pledge to you tonight that I will never abolish our heroes from ICE. Thank you. My administration has sent to Congress a common sense proposal to end the crisis on the southern border. It includes humanitarian assistance, more law enforcement, drug detection at our ports, closing loopholes that enable child smuggling, and plans for a new physical barrier or wall to secure the vast areas between our ports of entry. In the past, most of the people in this room voted for a wall, but the proper wall never got built. I will get it built. This is a smart, strategic, see-through steel barrier, not just a simple concrete wall. It will be deployed in the areas identified by the border agents as having the greatest need, and these agents will tell you where walls go up, illegal crossings go way, way down. San Diego used to have the most illegal border crossings in our country. In response, a strong security wall was put in place. This powerful barrier almost completely ended illegal crossings. The border city of El Paso, Texas, used to have extremely high rates of violent crime, one of the highest in the entire country, and considered one of our nation's most dangerous cities. Now, immediately upon its building, with a powerful barrier in place, El Paso is one of the safest cities in our country. Simply put, walls work and walls save lives. So let's work together, compromise, and reach a deal that will truly make America safe. As we work to defend our people's safety, we must also ensure our economic resurgence continues at a rapid pace. No one has benefited more from our thriving economy than women, who have filled 58% of the newly created jobs last year. You weren't supposed to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All Americans can be proud that we have more women in the workforce than ever before. Don't sit yet. You're going to like this. And exactly 1 century after Congress passed the constitutional amendment giving women the right to vote, we also have more women serving in Congress than at any time before. That's great. Really great. And congratulations. That's great. As part of our commitment to improving opportunity for women everywhere, this Thursday, we are launching the first ever government-wide initiative focused on economic empowerment for women in developing countries. To build on, thank you. To build on our incredible economic success, one priority is paramount: reversing decades of calamitous trade policies. So bad. We are now making it clear to China that after years of targeting our industries and stealing our intellectual property, the theft of American jobs and wealth has come to an end. Therefore, we recently imposed tariffs on $250 billion of Chinese goods, and now our Treasury is receiving billions and billions of dollars. But I don't blame China for taking advantage of us. I blame our leaders and representatives for allowing this travesty to happen. I have great respect for President Xi, and we are now working on a new trade deal with China. But it must include real structural change to end unfair trade practices, reduce our chronic trade deficit, and protect American jobs. Thank you. Another historic trade blunder was the catastrophe known as NAFTA. I have met the men and women of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, New Hampshire, and many other states whose dreams were shattered by the signing of NAFTA. For years, politicians promised them they would renegotiate for a better deal, but no one ever tried until now. Our new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the USMCA, will replace NAFTA and deliver for American workers like they haven't had delivered to for a long time. I hope you can pass the USMCA into law so that we can bring back our manufacturing jobs in even greater numbers, expand American agriculture, protect intellectual property, and ensure that more cars are proudly stamped with our 4 beautiful words: made in the USA. Tonight, I am also asking you to pass the United States Reciprocal Trade Act so that if another country places an unfair tariff on an American product, we can charge them the exact same tariff on the exact same product that they sell to us. Both parties should be able to unite for a great rebuilding of America's crumbling infrastructure. I know that Congress is eager to pass an infrastructure bill, and I am eager to work with you on legislation to deliver new and important infrastructure investment, including investments in the cutting-edge industries of the future. This is not an option. This is a necessity. The next major priority for me and for all of us should be to lower the cost of health care and prescription drugs and to protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Already as a result of my administration's efforts in 2018, drug prices experienced their single largest decline in 46 years. But we must do more. It's unacceptable that Americans pay vastly more than people in other countries for the exact same drugs, often made in the exact same place. This is wrong. This is unfair. And together, we will stop it. And we'll stop it fast. I am asking Congress to pass legislation that finally takes on the problem of global freeloading and delivers fairness and price transparency for American patients, finally. We should also require drug companies, insurance companies, and hospitals to disclose real prices to foster competition and bring costs way down. No force in history has done more to advance the human condition than American freedom. In recent years, we have made remarkable progress in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Scientific breakthroughs have brought a once distant dream within reach. My budget will ask Democrats and Republicans to make the needed commitment to eliminate the HIV epidemic in the United States within 10 years. We have made incredible strides, incredible. Together, we will defeat AIDS in America and beyond. Tonight, I am also asking you to join me in another fight that all Americans can get behind, the fight against childhood cancer. Joining Melania in the gallery this evening is a very brave 10-year-old girl, Grace Eline. Every birthday, hi, Grace. Every birthday since she was 4, Grace asked her friends to donate to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. She did not know that one day she might be a patient herself. That's what happened. Last year, Grace was diagnosed with brain cancer. Immediately, she began radiation treatment. At the same time, she rallied her community and raised more than $40,000 for the fight against cancer. When Grace completed treatment last fall, her doctors and nurses cheered. They loved her. They still love her. With tears in their eyes as she hung up a poster that read, "Last day of chemo." Thank you very much, Grace. You are a great inspiration to everyone in this room. Thank you very much. Many childhood cancers have not seen new therapies in decades. My budget will ask Congress for $500 million over the next 10 years to fund this critical life-saving research, to help support working parents, the time has come to pass school choice. I am also proud to be the first president to include in my budget a plan for nationwide paid family leave so that every new parent has the chance to bond with their newborn child. There could be no greater contrast to the beautiful image of a mother holding her infant child than the chilling displays our nation saw in recent days. Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth. These are living, feeling, beautiful babies who will never get the chance to share their love and their dreams with the world. And then we had the case of the governor of Virginia, where he stated he would execute a baby after birth. To defend the dignity of every person, I am asking Congress to pass legislation to prohibit the late-term abortion of children who can feel pain in the mother's womb. Let us work together to build a culture that cherishes innocent life. And let us reaffirm a fundamental truth. All children, born and unborn, are made in the holy image of God. The final part of my agenda is to protect American security. Over the last 2 years, we have begun to fully rebuild the United States military with $700 billion last year and $716 billion this year. We are also getting other nations to pay their fair share. Finally. For years, the United States was being treated very unfairly by friends of ours, members of NATO. But now we have secured, over the last couple of years, more than $100 billion of increase in defense spending from our NATO allies. They said it couldn't be done. As part of our military buildup, the United States is developing a state-of-the-art missile defense system. Under my administration, we will never apologize for advancing America's interests. For example, decades ago, the United States entered into a treaty with Russia in which we agreed to limit and reduce our missile capability. While we followed the agreement and the rules to the letter, Russia repeatedly violated its terms. It's been going on for many years. That is why I announced that the United States is officially withdrawing from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF Treaty. Perhaps we really have no choice. Perhaps we can negotiate a different agreement, adding China and others. Or perhaps we can't, in which case we will outspend and out-innovate all others by far. As part of a bold new diplomacy, we continue our historic push for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Our hostages have come home. Nuclear testing has stopped, and there has not been a missile launch in more than 15 months. If I had not been elected President of the United States, we would right now, in my opinion, be in a major war with North Korea. Much work remains to be done, but my relationship with Kim Jong-un is a good one. Chairman Kim and I will meet again on February 27th and 28th in Vietnam. 2 weeks ago, the United States officially recognized the legitimate government of Venezuela and its new president, Juan Guaido. We stand with the Venezuelan people in their noble quest for freedom, and we condemn the brutality of the Maduro regime, whose socialist policies have turned that nation from being the wealthiest in South America into a state of abject poverty and despair. Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free. Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country. One of the most complex set of challenges we face and have for many years is in the Middle East. Our approach is based on principled realism, not discredited theories that have failed for decades to yield progress. For this reason, my administration recognized the true capital of Israel and proudly opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. Our brave troops have now been fighting in the Middle East for almost 19 years. In Afghanistan and Iraq, nearly 7,000 American heroes have given their lives. More than 52,000 Americans have been badly wounded. We have spent more than $7 trillion in fighting wars in the Middle East. As a candidate for president, I loudly pledged a new approach. Great nations do not fight endless wars. When I took office, ISIS controlled more than 20,000 square miles in Iraq and Syria just 2 years ago. Today, we have liberated virtually all of the territory from the grip of these bloodthirsty monsters. Now, as we work with our allies to destroy the remnants of ISIS, it is time to give our brave warriors in Syria a warm welcome home. I have also accelerated our negotiations to reach, if possible, a political settlement in Afghanistan. The opposing side is also very happy to be negotiating. Our troops have fought with unmatched valor, and thanks to their bravery, we are now able to pursue a possible political solution to this long and bloody conflict. In Afghanistan, my administration is holding constructive talks with a number of Afghan groups, including the Taliban. As we make progress in these negotiations, we will be able to reduce our troops' presence and focus on counterterrorism, and we will indeed focus on counterterrorism. We do not know whether we'll achieve an agreement, but we do know that after 2 decades of war, the hour has come to at least try for peace, and the other side would like to do the same thing. It's time. Above all, friend and foe alike must never doubt this nation's power and will to defend our people. 18 years ago, violent terrorists attacked the USS Cole, and last month, American forces killed one of the leaders of that attack. We are honored to be joined tonight by Tom Wibberley, whose son, Navy seaman Craig Wibberley, was one of the 17 sailors we tragically lost. Tom, we vow to always remember the heroes of the USS Cole. Thank you, Tom. My administration has acted decisively to confront the world's leading state sponsor of terror, the radical regime in Iran. It is a radical regime. They do bad, bad things. To ensure this corrupt dictatorship never acquires nuclear weapons, I withdrew the United States from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. And last fall, we put in place the toughest sanctions ever imposed by us on a country. We will not avert our eyes from a regime that chants death to America and threatens genocide against the Jewish people. We must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed. With one voice, we must confront this hatred anywhere and everywhere it occurs. Just months ago, 11 Jewish Americans were viciously murdered in an anti-Semitic attack on the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. SWAT officer Timothy Matson raced into the gunfire and was shot 7 times chasing down the killer, and he was very successful. Timothy has just had his 12th surgery, and he's going in for many more. but he made the trip to be here with us tonight. Officer Mattson, please. Thank you. We are forever grateful. Thank you very much. Tonight, we are also joined by Pittsburgh survivor Judah Samet. He arrived at the synagogue as the massacre began. But not only did Judah narrowly escape death last fall, more than 7 decades ago, he narrowly survived the Nazi concentration camps. Today is Judah's 81st birthday. They wouldn't do that for me, Judah. Judah says he can still remember the exact moment nearly 75 years ago, after 10 months in a concentration camp, when he and his family were put on a train and told they were going to another camp. Suddenly, the train screeched to a very strong halt. A soldier appeared. Judah's family braced for the absolute worst. Then his father cried out with joy, "It's the Americans! It's the Americans!" Thank you. A second Holocaust survivor who is here tonight, Joshua Kaufman, was a prisoner at Dachau. He remembers watching through a hole in the wall of a cattle car as American soldiers rolled in with tanks. To me, Joshua recalls, the American soldiers were proof that God exists. And they came down from the sky. They came down from heaven. I began this evening by honoring 3 soldiers who fought on D-Day in the Second World War. One of them was Herman Zaitchik. But there is more to Herman's story. A year after he stormed the beaches of Normandy, Herman was one of the American soldiers who helped liberate Dachau. He was one of the Americans who helped rescue Joshua from that hell on earth. Almost 75 years later, Herman and Joshua are both together in the gallery tonight, seated side by side, here in the home of American freedom. Herman and Joshua, your presence this evening is very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you. When American soldiers set out beneath the dark skies over the English Channel in the early hours of D-Day 1944, they were just young men of 18 and 19 hurtling on fragile landing craft toward the most momentous battle in the history of war. They did not know if they would survive the hour. They did not know if they would grow old, but they knew that America had to prevail. Their cause was this nation and generations yet unborn. Why did they do it? They did it for America. They did it for us. Everything that has come since our triumph over communism, our giant leaps of science and discovery, our unrivaled progress towards equality and justice, all of it is possible thanks to the blood and tears and courage and vision of the Americans who came before. Think of this Capitol. Think of this very chamber where lawmakers before you voted to end slavery, to build the railroads and the highways and defeat fascism, to secure civil rights and to face down evil empires. Here tonight, we have legislators from across this magnificent republic. You have come from the rocky shores of Maine and the volcanic peaks of Hawaii, from the snowy woods of Wisconsin and the red deserts of Arizona, from the green farms of Kentucky and the golden beaches of California. Together, we represent the most extraordinary nation in all of history. What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? I ask the men and women of this Congress, look at the opportunities before us. Our most thrilling achievements are still ahead. Our most exciting journeys still await. Our biggest victories are still to come. We have not yet begun to dream. We must choose whether we are defined by our differences or whether we dare to transcend them. We must choose whether we squander our great inheritance or whether we proudly declare that we are Americans. We do the incredible. We defy the impossible. We conquer the unknown. This is the time to reignite the American imagination. This is the time to search for the tallest summit and set our sights on the brightest star. This is the time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens, as neighbors, as patriots. This is our future, our fate, and our choice to make. I am asking you to choose greatness. No matter the trials we face, no matter the challenges to come, we must go forward together. We must keep America first in our hearts. We must keep freedom alive in our souls. And we must always keep faith in America's destiny. That one nation, under God, must be the hope and the promise and the light and the glory among all the nations of the world. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, guys, we are back on the air. Sorry, we were having a conversation about some of the logistics that go on behind the scenes of. Oh yeah, we were definitely live there for a second. We should have been paying attention. Sorry about that. We were having a conversation on the logistics of the speech and how it works with a designated survivor and security and how it's chosen and all that kind of thing. And then Bailey, we were educating Bailey on how that works, and then we forgot the chief of staff's name, Mick Mulvaney, for a second. It was a whole thing. So we're glad to be back. I want to start this off by really underscoring Donald Trump's ability to unify that body and this country in a speech where he never really explicitly called for unity, but the things he mentioned in the way he mentioned it it was almost impossible to stay seated or not clap in support. It was very smoothly done, and I have to give the president a ton of credit here. He came off strong, he came off bold, he came off as a compromiser, and as somebody who wanted to unify all at the same time, and this speech was extremely well done.
I'd agree. Personally, I think that's probably the best speech that President Trump has given in his tenure as presidency. As Max mentioned, with that overtly stating unification, there were a lot of moments that everyone, that was one of the more unified clapping or whatever kind of speeches. I mean, you saw on both sides of the aisle there were a ton of standing ovations from on. There were a lot of unifying issues. I wrote down well, actually, I didn't. I wrote down all the issues that Democrats didn't clap for, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But a lot of cool stories to see. A lot of the visitors or the guests of the president. Why can I not think of this? The concentration camp, Dachau. The military person and the prisoner who got saved and 75 years later, they're both sitting at the State of the Union address, reunited as one in a show of anti-Semitism is pretty incredible to me. So, like I mentioned, this was an awesome speech by the president. Some jokes in there, some laughs, some digs, yeah, some little digs. Happy birthday got sung. USA was chanted. It was a very presidential speech, a very Trump presidential speech. It was, yeah, it was, I mean, it was, for me, if you had to, you know, create the most fun, the most entertaining, the most Trump State of the Union address while still remaining presidential, unifying, and on message, which he did very well. Kudos to him. Kudos to the speechwriters and his advisors for really just knocking out of the ballpark. There's not going to be a lot that Democrats or the liberal media can take away and be like, you know, this was bad, this was bad. Now, obviously, there were some divisive issues that I'll let Bailey touch on, but for the most part, fantastic speech.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. You know, the left commonly paints the president as not being very presidential, and I thought this was one of the moments where he truly was very polished, very well-spoken, and everything he said was eloquently worded. It just was very smooth, and he really got almost everyone standing up on a lot of key things, and I thought that was very notable. And I liked how he started off his remarks by saying, you know, I'm ready to work with you to achieve breakthroughs. He called for unity. He said he was willing to work across party lines, and he said, I'm asking you to choose greatness tonight. So, I mean, I thought that was really well worded. He was very polished tonight, and I thought he really killed it. I mean, it was a really, yeah, his demeanor was great. I just thought it was very noteworthy for sure. Also talked a lot about the economy. Obviously, this was a big way. He also touted the recent jobs report, which came out last week. We've added, or really his policies have added 304,000 jobs just in the month of January. So also pretty incredible. Another key thing that had everyone up and clapping, even the congresswomen, right, in white coats. Yeah. Was criminal justice reform, you know, passing that First Step Act, essentially getting a lot of these nonviolent drug offenders that have been in prison for decades out and backed out. The power of our military, saying it's unparalleled, and of course he did touch on border security. He said we have 10 days left, and he just called on everyone to work together. So obviously he did not declare a national emergency, and I don't think many of us are shocked about that. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously in the coming days, crazy that it's only 10 days away now. So guys, any more thoughts on?
I think one of the best moments of this speech was when President Trump said that it was government coercion and domination if there was implemented socialism. That was a very strong reprimand of the Democratic Party's leanings and movement further left. It was a strong cry against this Venezuelan sort of move of government that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are really pushing for. And I think that was one of the strongest moments in this speech. It came off very intimidating for Democrats. Nancy Pelosi clearly did not like those comments. She's yeah, she did. She's not a socialist. She's not necessarily a socialist herself in her own platform, but the Democrat Party platform is starting to shift that way. And there are a lot of members in her party under her leadership that really want to take the party that direction. And so I think it was a very incredible moment by the president. Something I really did appreciate from him as well, that he showed a lot of love and respect for veterans while also highlighting the principles this country was built on. Hey, remember not only these things that they did and what we're providing for them, but remember these principles and these values that they fought for as well, not just America itself.
For sure. And again, as I mentioned, it was unifying, but there were some times where there was partisanship and not as much support from the Democratic side. I do want to touch on that a little bit because it was somewhat surprising at times. And I know everyone has their own opinions and own views from the left on the president's policies, but these are things that I think we can all agree on are quite impressive and good for the country and minorities overall. As she touched on, low unemployment, especially for people of color and the disabled, those are all at an all-time low. And there was no clapping from the Speaker or the Democratic side, the majority of the Democratic side, for that, which was kind of surprising given how much they champion those groups. So I would have liked to see...
Women, though, kind of interesting.
They clap for congresswomen. I would have liked to see that bolstered a little bit more, like to see a little bit more support, but again, that's on them. That's their talking point that they're going to lose, and hopefully people call them out for it. Jobs as well, you know, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. More people working is great for the country. At the end of the day, wages are rising, unemployment is low, there are more jobs open and available and more people seeking jobs. So again, something I found funny was the ridiculous partisan investigation comment by the president. We all know the Mueller investigation the president's not a huge fan of, so it was funny to see him comment on that. Dems really didn't clap for vets either, which was a little bit sad, even though that was such a touching and great tribute. Yeah. But, you know, partisan politics gets in the way of moving the country forward sometimes, sadly. So hopefully a little bit of the president's words will be able to resonate with the Democratic side, and hopefully moving forward they can come together a little bit better. Again, immigrant sex traffickers put behind bars. There's a record number of that. Tens of thousands of sex traffickers. Or no, I think it was 1,500 illegal immigrant sex traffickers were locked up. There was no clap for that, which I don't really understand because, I mean, would they clap if it was legal sex traffickers put behind bars? Legal or illegal, regardless, any form of trafficking of humans, especially in the sex trafficking industry, is just abhorrent. So I'm sad and slightly disheartened that they couldn't have come together and supported that on the whole. I did like when he touched on women in Congress, and that a decade after women were allowed to vote, or not allowed to vote, I should say, that there's a record number of women representing the United States. So even if we might not support all of them, it's still awesome to see more of a representation between women and men in Congress, which is always something, is always a great talking point moving forward. And then finally, I wanted to touch on, he did announce, as we possibly expected, that the Vietnam summit, or the summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un, will happen in Vietnam, and that will take place on February 27th and 28th, so just 18, not 18, a little over 20 days away, 22 days away, so you have to stay tuned to that. Stay tuned for that. We'll bring you some coverage and analysis on that, but I'll pass it over to Bailey. Also, I just got an alert that Stacey Abrams, the loser in the Georgia gubernatorial race, is starting her Democratic rebuttal. Didn't know we're at church where there's a call and response, but apparently that's the era we're in now. So I will be watching it later, not now because I don't care that much. But it'll be interesting to see what the losing candidate. As a Georgian, I am prouder than ever to see Brian Kemp's name on the Welcome to Georgia sign.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well, especially flying back into Atlanta and then driving home and seeing that sign. A proud moment for sure.
Yes.
You do. Max has a Brian Kemp yard side. I'm not shocked, but you're a resident of Alabama, so okay. But you're still okay. I like it. Love the support.
Brian Kemp sign, please send it to me. I need one.
Anyway, but yeah, one thing. Immigration, and it's just simply overinflated, contorted, and misrepresented, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I really liked how the president clarified yet again, because he has before, but he had to do it again, that he is all for legal immigration. Yeah. And I quote, he said, he wants to combat illegal immigration, but he was talking about how legal immigrants enrich our nation and strengthen our society in many ways. So I think that's really important, because I feel like the right is always demonized that, you know, we are not pro-immigrant, and no, we're just pro-rule of law in connection with having immigrants and having people come through our borders. So as long as you do it legally, that's awesome. You know, immigrants do enrich our society and do make America better. The president also touched on the USMCA, which is going to replace NAFTA, hopefully. He he reiterated, you know, he's big on free and fair trade. That being said, he really wants to protect American industries and make sure that jobs are coming back into American borders. He also, one thing that a lot of people, I think everyone stood up for this one, was he mentioned the fight against childhood cancer. He had a little girl there who had fought cancer, and that was really touching to see. Yeah, she was really, really adorable. He went on to condemn violence in Venezuela. Obviously, you know, the political crisis going on down there is a little bit of a mess. People are, you know, have food and medicines shortages, in addition to dealing with the interim president and then Maduro. It's just kind of unfortunately a little bit chaotic down there. Also, he mentioned Afghanistan, which is a 17-year war. It's America's longest war. He had mentioned that, you know, we've been holding peace talks with the Taliban, and hopefully he wants to see that come to an end soon. So definitely looking forward to that, given, like I said, it has been our longest war, and you know, we've been training Afghan forces for that entire time, and we have a lot of wonderful men and women over there who I'm sure are ready to come home. So, guys, any more comments?
I just brought up Stacey Abrams' live broadcast of her rebuttal on Twitter, and I could be saying this wrong, but it appears she's in front of a green screen of a fake audience. That not look like a green screen to you? See the little line around her body?
They're moving.
I know, but it doesn't look like it. Does that look like a green screen to you? Doesn't she look a little removed from the background?
Yeah, she does. Do you know where she's holding this response?
It says it's in Atlanta. Again, I don't know this for sure, but it appears, and again, this is not a dig on her, it just is funny to me that they're, instead of just having her in front of like American flags, they're having her in front of a fake live audience who like clearly isn't engaged or moving facial expressions. Carol is just stoically standing there. There's a little tidbit to throw in there because I find that like extremely humorous, and all the camera angles are the same, so obviously like there's no, could be a pre-recorded speech, who knows, but I find it funny that Dems have a pre-written speech and are responding to Trump's rebuttal only moments after he finished. So clearly the rebuttal is not in response to his actual speech, but in response to some of the policy he's been pushing recently, because as we all know, you can't listen to a speech and write a well-formed rebuttal just seconds after he leaves the podium. Right. So Stacey Abrams, sorry, better luck next time, but I don't know. Go away.
And it was clear that he did have support from the left on several, if not a lot, of the key issues that he had mentioned. How do you think that this speech may or may not impact negotiations for the border wall moving forward? Because now we know that the February 15th deadline is obviously just 10 days away. So how do you guys think that this could or maybe will not impact those talks moving forward?
I feel like hopefully, again, this is all just being optimistic. Hopefully it'll urge the Democrats to come forward and realize this is now, you know, kind of the nth time Trump has said on a national large stage that, hey, I really do want to work with you guys. I really want to find a deal, a compromise we can all be happy on, and not take the U.S. back into a government shutdown. As we know, that wasn't very productive. Lots of unpaid workers, lots of security concerns, especially with TSA and the airport. That all makes travelers a little bit uneasy. So obviously we don't want, you know, the government shutting down is not ideal. People rely on those paychecks. People living paycheck to paycheck really count on having a paycheck so they can, you know, pay their rent, pay their bills, health care, all sorts of stuff like that. So hopefully, you know, 10 days, that's plenty of time to come to an agreement. Congress or the House and the Senate can work around the clock. They don't need to go on vacation over the weekends. They don't need to leave, as we've seen many times. But I really hope and I really think this is the best shot and kind of the final, you know, hurrah. Yeah, for a Democrat. I mean, there was, yes, he talked about border security and immigration, but in a very I thought, productive way. It wasn't divisive. It was, we may have our differences, but at the end of the day, he sounded very pro-immigrant, very pro-legal immigrant. He said, I want, legal immigrants coming to this country in record numbers. I mean, that's unprecedented for a president to say while also pushing border security. So to me, I don't know why Democrats would be against that. There's no reason to be. So I really do hope and pray that Democrats step up, do the job they were elected and are paid to do, and really get out there and, compromise, even just a little bit. It starts with a little bit of compromise, and slowly we can work together to become a more unified force to, in the end, make America a better place for everyone. Thoughts?
President Trump did a great job highlighting his need for the wall without overdoing it, without making this speech entirely about that, which was a fear of mine, that he would do that for that pure reason. But the president references on human trafficking was extremely important to this argument. Yeah. The call for the wall, not just to stop illegal immigrants, but to stop young boys and young girls from being trafficked for sex purposes. That shouldn't be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a partisan.
It's a humanitarian concern.
Right. She. If you guys can't hear, I don't know why you guys can and can't hear. She was saying that that's a humanitarian issue. That's not a partisan issue, and she's exactly right about that. Mentioning the human trafficking is a huge component to convincing Democrats, or at least trying to get them to concede in the border wall talks. Another thing was mentioning El Paso's drastically declining crime rate as well. That was super key to this discussion that he had about the border very momentarily. I think that the speech did a great job of highlighting some key achievements for this administration, nudging Congress, saying, hey, let's get this border thing done, and also calling for action in many legislative areas that he needs to get taken care of within the next 2 years. All in all, great speech, and I believe that with a lot of really great work and at least making there seem to be some unity or calls for unity will help discussions in the border legislation in the next week and a half. Anything else to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I feel like that really is not a partisan issue, and it shouldn't be. Unfortunately, it's just at this point, I feel like and I've heard this multiple places, but their hatred for the president overtakes their willingness to work for the American people. And unfortunately, that's just been the trend lately. But I'm hopeful that, I don't know if it'll happen, but I am hopeful that after this, I would call it a last-ditch olive branch of a well-worded, fantastic speech. I really hope that is kind of the final push and solidifying factor to get the left back to the negotiating table, so I don't know. Any thoughts, Max?
Yeah, I think it should be the last push. I don't know.
What else can he do?
There's not a whole lot else he can do. He's come to the table. He's mentioned he's mentioned compromising. He's mentioned the unity that he's trying to create. This was a well-written and well-delivered speech. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We really had a good time listening to President Trump. We had a great time kind of leading up to it and wrapping things up. And we really appreciate all the support you guys gave us. We appreciate the patience you had with the audio technical issues early on, and even now I heard that there's still slight buzzing. Trust me, we're going to work to take care of it. There's something wrong with either the camera or the mic, and we got it turned down a little bit, but we'll work on it within the next couple weeks until we go to CPAC. We appreciate you guys sticking alongside of us through that. As Joe made a joke early on in the broadcast, it wouldn't be a right side production without a little bit of technical difficulties. We're authentic here. We're a small company in Auburn, Alabama. We are not CNN. And we're not Fox. We don't have hundreds of million. What we're seeing genuinely, without a spin, without any sort of narrative, and without any sort of corporate sponsors. And we're 100% funded by you guys. We're serious. We are 100% funded by you guys, and we appreciate that so much. If you want to continue to help us and support us so we can get on top of our game so we can beat out the mainstream media in 2020 for the presidential election, please donate to us. We do appreciate that so much. We know it might come off a little bit like we're not appreciative, but we're extremely appreciative. We would not be here if it weren't for that support. Please donate to the YouTube Super Chats, that $ button in the bottom corner. Please click on that and send us a donation through there. You can also donate through PayPal. PayPal.com/ I believe it's RSB Network, I believe is that /, but you can donate through there. You can write a check. Also attach a letter to it. We do enjoy reading those. Yeah, we really do. Joe has an entire stack of these saved up. We save every single one you guys send. That's not a joke. I've seen him save every single one. So please send those to the address which would be put in the chat right now. And also, we do have a Patreon account. You can donate monthly, so you don't have to wait for a stream to put up to donate or have to enter in new information every single time. You can go ahead and sign up on Patreon and get cool perks. Your name can scroll at the bottom white ticker right underneath me at this very second. And you can get some other awesome perks as well. So those are the ways you can support us. We really do appreciate that. We don't have commercials, as you see. We don't have corporate sponsors behind us or sponsoring segments or anything like that. We're just us in the garage right now giving you guys this broadcast, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us, so thank you so much. Please donate if you have the financial capability for it. If you don't, send a letter. We would love that as well. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate that. I'm going to give it off to Bailey and Jordan for a second for some final thoughts, and we'll wrap it up and let you guys just really struggle to listen to Stacey Abrams.
As you said, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. It's been great being here for the short time I have been, so thank you to you guys for welcoming me. I do want to say, plug our social media a little bit. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to be more active there, providing some behind-the-scenes looks at life here at RSBN, as well as our upcoming documentary, recent trip to the border, and some other exclusive thoughts, and interacting with you guys. So be sure to follow us on Instagram. It's at RSBNTV. Again, on Instagram, at RSBNTV. Follow us on Twitter. Be sure to interact with us there. All of us are very active over there. You can follow each of us individually as well as the RSBN Twitter. Make sure to, if you can, like this video, share it with a friend or a family member. It helps us out a lot. Hopefully they can enjoy some of our banter and our commentary. Again, this is authentic. We love doing this. We love interacting with you guys, so thank you for your continued support. And Bailey, I'll let you wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We really have had such a wonderful night bringing you guys this live coverage, and we really appreciate you guys bearing with us as well. You know, as we sort out these little hiccups, you know, it really has been such an adventure, and I'm still new here too, and it's just been really incredible so far. Really excited for the future. That being said, we really appreciate the donations, the support, the letters. I love the letters. I think one of the first times that I was like officially working here, Joe was like, okay, let's go through some letters. And I was like, oh, it's official. So I started reading the letters, and they're just so sweet, and it's just awesome. So thank you guys again. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned because we're going to have our documentary coming out. We don't have an air date for that yet, but again, we'll keep you posted on that. We need to sift through the footage and all those sorts of things. Oh, and I'm gonna shout out Margaret Kahn for your $20 donation, who said, "Thank you, Right Side. America needs you. MSM is all lies." Thank you very much, Margaret. Also, $5 from Holy. They said Wall saves children's lives on both sides coming Thursday. So lots going on, lots to look forward to, and we really appreciate you guys and your support. So thank you guys again for tuning in tonight, and we will see you soon. Thank you guys.
Yeah.